Hello and welcome to the ultimatehouse.com, where you can learn how to design and build yours. My name is Otis Bradley with the always helpful Lucy the dog. I've been a custom home builder for over 30 years, building and rebuilding just about anything you can imagine. Today's topic is bungalow remodel with a bunch of question marks here. Why the question marks? Really because what is a bungalow? A lot of people have different ideas. Some people call this bungalow, some people call this a ranch. You could call it a monopoly house. It's a post-war tract home in suburban Los Angeles, actually between Venice, Mar Vista, and Culver City. A house I bought and remodeled for myself, actually, and it was about as plain a house as you can imagine. It was less than 800 square feet, literally a box. They say that they used to frame these, do the wood framing in one day. Two carpenters could build this house in one day. Anyway, what we're going to talk about in this webinar is existing house. I'll show you the existing plan and then the design program, the ideas for how I wanted to remodel it. We'll go through the plans, the work, and then I'll show you the finished house, and we'll do a little bonus, a little extra stuff on kitchen design. Okay, so the existing house, as I mentioned, it was even plain for this particular street. This is another period house here and a little bit more modern one there, but plain, plain, plain. The fanciest thing they did was had this one section of siding here on otherwise stucco box. And this is what the plan looked like. So the first thing I always do with a project is draw the existing plan. Helps me figure out what's going on and what might be possible to do with the house. But this is looking at from the street. The entry was right here, covered entry, and you entered into this sort of living room, 16 by 11. And then that has a wide opening here where you kind of entered into a dining room area, 10 by 10. And then the kitchen here is in another little section. You can see it's only 8.6 by 8.6, tiny little kitchen. There's a laundry area here, one bedroom, a small bath, and another bedroom. My opinion with these homes is they obviously had a whole bunch of little rooms cobbled together in a design that might have made sense when they originally built it for a family. But at the time, this was just for me, and I wanted to open up the house and make it a lot more livable. So what I decided to do, you can't see it very well, but these gray walls are the walls that were going to come out. So I'm going to take out all these walls and I'm going to change it from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rooms to a lot less and a lot more open space. This is the site plan, another good thing to do with every existing project. Very simple here. It's simply 50 feet wide by 120 feet long, which makes a 6,000 square foot lot. Here's the street. You'll notice I marked down here water and gas meters. Always good to put your utilities in there. The power pole was back here. I should have marked that. Came up to the roof right there. Had a garage in the back, actually a garage with some add-on buildings, which I was able to turn into an apartment. And then I even marked out an area here for future addition to make this house a little bit bigger. I figured while I'm planning this, I should figure out how I might expand it. So here, looking at it from the north and from the south side, that driveway that goes back to the garage in the back here. There's the back of the house. Pretty plain. More of the back of the house. You can see the hot water heater here. This is the entry into the laundry, and the kitchen was over here. Bedroom back here, bedroom over here. Looking through that door, through the laundry room, down the hall, you can see just doorway doorway here, which is inside the doorway, another doorway, another doorway, another doorway, like a little maze. This was the living room, right when you entered directly into the house, directly into this living room, no buffer. Here's the kitchen with that little 45-degree countertop and the old sort of tiling and cabinets. So this is a 3D virtual walkthrough of the existing building, something I did long after because it wasn't available back then. But you can see walking through the entry into the dining room and into the tiny little kitchen, circling back around and looking at that laundry door and the little bedrooms and bath and into the other bedroom. Okay, so if you've watched any of my videos in the past, you'll know that we talk about the design program. Whether you're building a new home or an existing home, it really makes sense to write up a page of your design concept, particularly if there are two people involved, because to make it work, you really need to combine those concepts or else you'll be arguing throughout the process. This I joke with an architect friend of mine because it's kind of a very funny sort of concept I came up with, which I did to several of these little bungalows, but I called it the post-war Asian craftsman modern. And obviously, the World War II was largely with Asia, but these are all these kind of plain Jane monopoly post-war houses built in the late 40s, early 50s, and I like this idea of introducing some wood beams, kind of an open, what I called an Asian feeling of light woods, and also the kind of the idea of the craftsman, the mark of the hand, although modern. A lot of it had to do, all these houses had lots of little tiny rooms, and they also were oriented towards the front or the street side. And I wanted to open it up so I could use the backyard, so I could open it up and have barbecues and go in and out. I wasn't going to hang out in my front yard. I was going to hang out in the backyard, so I really wanted to reorient the house. Wanted to bring a lot of light into it. Wanted to have, instead of little tiny hobbit rooms, sort of an open, even though it's tiny, you can still have a great room, right? I wanted to create a better entry into the house instead of opening a door right into the main living room. I wanted to transition, and you'll see I like the use of wood and the expression of the structure of the beams. So I opened up this little house. I put a lot of beams in. I put a lot of natural wood cabinets and some wood trim work in the carpentry where I could. I also wanted to update all of the mechanicals, the plumbing and the wiring, which was very old. But at the same time, I wanted to keep my costs down. And a lot of that with the remodel is trying to work within the structure of what you have. It's easy to obliterate the whole thing and start new, but it's tricky to update and use what you have, or trickier. So let's take a look at the plans. Again, this is the existing plan. I showed you lots of little tiny rooms. And when I originally did this was back in '98, I actually was using a CAD program. This is when CAD programs really were starting to come out and be used. Many people, many designers and architects are still hand-drawing plans at this time, but there are a lot of advantages. It's like a word processor compared to handwriting a book. There are a lot of advantages to electronic drafting, and one of them is being able to do a lot of iterations of design and trying a lot of things out very quickly. Since that time, I'm now using a 3D program, and this is a little model I made of this same house. So instead of just a 3D, instead of just a two-dimensional drawing, you can see it in 3D. And then I can even pop the roof off and show you again these rooms from a bird's eye point of view. Again, you enter in this way: living room, dining room, that little tiny kitchen, little laundry room, bedroom. There's that laundry door. So it gives you a much better idea very quickly with 3D, even compared to 2D, which at the time was a huge advance over hand drawing. Again, this was the lot, so instead of having that living room right here with the entry to the street, I wanted to reorient this house so that the living area would work out back with this area that I developed into sort of a barbecue outdoor living area. So this was a first pass at design, and as I said, on CAD you can easily flip things around, so I was playing with different blocking out different areas, and I decided, all right, let's bring the entry in here, and then we'll put the 2 bedrooms and bath over there. So we'll create sort of a private side and a public side. But you can see to do that, I actually moved the entire bathroom from this location over to here. This room was kind of awkward, didn't really work. Closets were a little odd, so I kept working on it. But this started to make some sense, opening up the kitchen with an island or a countertop that could see through this living area and out to the backyard. These were arbors, wood arbors that I was designing that made an indoor-outdoor space in the back, and also started working on creating a more special entry. And then this was the final plan I came up with, actually leaving that bathroom in the same spot. I was able to leave this bedroom and turn the living room into a bedroom by creating a buffer wall between the 2 rooms, which had closets for both of those rooms. Looking at it from above, create a closet area between the 2 rooms, bedroom, bedroom, bath. Started developing again this entry with an arbor that showed sort of structural elements coming out of the house, which are also a part of the inside that you'll see, and changing the entry to the house, instead of straight into that living room, which is now a bedroom, heading in this way, and I ended up having a little wall here with a translucent, not transparent, but a translucent window, so it's sort of blocked. You could see, so you didn't see right into the bathroom. Made a nice little entryway, and then as you turned here, you could see the more dramatic great room where I removed the ceiling and put in a bunch of beam structure. So it became a very interesting kind of artistic, sculptural look. And I also started playing around this idea of this surfboard table. So again, there's the old plan. Got rid of all these walls throughout here. Changed the bedroom orientation and created a new entry. Actually was able to save one of these windows and install it there. Took out this door, took out this window, took out this window, took out this window, and added new windows up here, which you'll see. And here's the final plan with furniture added. So always a good idea to add furniture, particularly if you have specific types of items, but you can really start to see how a room will work. Again, these were the 2 bedrooms. Instead of a doorway here, there's now a window. The entry is reoriented. Instead of coming straight in here up a couple of steps, you enter in through this cool trellis and up this way, and then you turn into the house, and you see this interesting, it's actually a white laminated glass window which lets light through, but you can't see through. So you've got an interesting entryway as a buffer point. Instead of entering right into the room, you can turn left to go into this bedroom, or you naturally go towards the right where you see this open area with a lot of light. I added 3 high windows in this room. Had this open kitchen, which was a very efficient kitchen with since this is a really tiny room, I had to think of interesting ways to create a dining space in here, and I did that by creating this surfboard-like table, which cantilevered out at an angle and was supported by these cool steel posts. At the time, I was really into welding, and made a kind of interesting statement that you'll see. But you can see I started placing chairs and tables in this room, as well as bedroom furniture, so you can really see how a room will start to work when you fill it up with the furniture. And these are sections, so if you're unused to plans, really what a section is if you cut this building in half. And there are two sections here. This section is looking across the living room. So if we cut a line through the house and looked in that direction, you can see actually the beams in the ceiling, and you can see that bedroom door. So there's that bedroom door. You can see the beams that are coming through. And then this section here would be a section cutting the building across this way. So you're looking in this direction. Sections are very important in helping you figure out, particularly if you're only looking at a two-dimensional drawing. This is something I actually, at one time I was playing around with the idea of completely rebuilding the roof, since the old roof was not much not much of a structure anyway, but that turned into a bigger project than I wanted. A lot of details. These are detailed drawings. You can see there's details here on how I built that exterior trellis, details for the skylights. Detailed drawings are very important. Oftentimes you see lots of details for the structural work, but not much for the architectural work. These really help your builder, help an architect translate to a builder exactly how he wants things done. And these are the elevations, or the outdoor drawings. So you have essentially 4 of them, one from each side, with further detail. And this is the 3D model that I have made since then. So this is the finished drawing. Again, you can see a 3D model. What do you get more from, the 2D or the 3D? I think the 3D is pretty fabulous. Again, that was the before and the after, using modern day 3D technology. All right, so let's talk about the work. When you do a project like this, it's really best to, the reason you plan is that you can take advantage of doing work in the most efficient way possible. And what I mean by that is, since we figured out all the walls that we were going to take out, we could go in there with a demo crew, and we knew we were going to take the roof off. We can just remove everything all at once, start with a demoed out building, and get ready to rebuild. So even a little building like this means carting away trash bin loads full of plaster and old 2x4s and so forth. But this is looking from the kitchen out towards the backyard. You can see we've started a frame in windows. This is the where the sliding door is going to go into the back. This is the door that's coming out of the entrance to the laundry room. And this where we had to, this concrete was like steel. It took a couple days and a breaker to smash all that stuff out. You can see the removal of the old roof. This roof actually originally had wood shingles, which are simply over strips of wood. And there wasn't even plywood covering this roof. And then over that, someone had put tar shingles. So it was just a all lumpy old roof, and it actually wasn't in bad shape. And when we ended up putting plywood over this whole thing to cover it up and putting a new roof on, it really looked great. But this was just all termited and full of junk. You can see taking out the concrete stoop here in front of the building as well. There's the old 60 amp electric service, which was relocated. We're filling in a window here. and that's the kitchen. You can see that's where the old 45-degree counter was between those two windows. So again, this was 9 feet by 9 feet, tiny. Took out the ceiling, took out the walls. And an important thing to think of with remodeling is your utilities and all of your water lines, gas lines, sewer lines. We replaced all of that stuff in this little house. Sewer lines go about 5 feet deep. That's why these guys are digging so low to reach the city sewer, and that requires a special permit and special inspections to do a sewer line. But the old lines were clay pipes, which the roots would get into and separate and cause problems, obviously. So it's not that big of a deal when you're doing all this demo work to put in your new lines. We also put in a new gas line, which you can see here. And this is, I don't think they make us put these in anymore. These are earthquake valves. So if the ground shook, this would shut off the gas. And a new copper water line, 1.5-inch copper water line. So all the utilities are taken care of. Gonzalez put in a new 100-amp electric service. And this is even some new lines that are going to go from the house and from that panel out to the garage, where I had a laundry room and a future apartment. Then, of course, it's time to start putting things back together. Here you can start seeing the installation of this trellis. The new front door is put in. We're getting ready for the siding here. Charles is framing up some walls. Here's a sheer wall. This is a thick wall in between the kitchen and the hall because we stuck some little tiny cabinets in here for kind of a mini pantry. And this is the entry. You can see the white laminated glass here, and the ceiling that's been opened up and replaced with a bunch of beams. So that this is now the formal entry instead of entering right into the room like before. Another view sort of from the kitchen. You can see that entry wall and that white glass window with the bathroom back here behind it. Looking from the entry into the great room. Here are those 3 high windows, and these high windows in a tiny little space are kind of interesting because you can still put furniture below that, whereas if you had a window that came down regular height, it wouldn't be as easy to furnish the room. So again, these windows let a lot of light and air in, but still allow you to do different things with your floor plan and your furniture. You can see the sliding doors here that are going out to the backyard, which will open up that area. Another shot from the outside. There are the high windows. You can see the skylights. There's 2 operable skylights. Being close to the ocean, the climate is very moderate here. As a matter of fact, this whole house was heated with a gas wood stove. I mean, it's a gas stove that looks like a wood stove that was on an automatic thermostat. Here we're starting to assemble that trellis, and you can see the idea of the structure coming out of the house and your entry traveling down this kind of dramatic little space here into the house as it becomes an exoskeleton to a interior frame. Something I ended up doing quite a bit for a lot of these little houses. You can see these little columns that we made. I had a couple statues that I wanted a space for, so I set that up. And now we'll take a look at the finished house. So there it is, completed. You can see the landscape is transformed, some interesting plants and fence, a couple boulders outside, ways to make a very plain home look a lot more dramatic and interesting. You can see the 3D drawing again. So again, another virtual walkthrough. Imagine if you were doing a house and you wanted to see what it looked like. This is the way to do it. You literally we're walking up to the house and you can see what the exterior is going to look like. Walking into the house, you can see the entry, and looking from the entry into the great room and the kitchen, even back outside, you can peer down into those bedrooms, get a glimpse of how they look. It's quick because it takes a lot of memory to video this stuff, but if you wanted to, you could certainly linger in different areas and look more carefully. Pretty cool stuff. Again, this is the before shot and the after shot. This particular house was actually published in a fine home building book called Updating Classic American Ranches. They didn't use the word bungalow, they used ranches. And inside this book, it's called Santa Monica Pier, even though it wasn't Santa Monica or near a pier. But that's what it was titled, and a lot of good shots. Unfortunately, I don't seem to have the book anymore, and the book's been updated with a new cover, but you can still buy it. Another angle, and this fence here was just some round fence posts with a heavy-duty 6x6 wire. Once the bougainvillea filled in here, it went in and out of the fence and looked very natural and quite pretty without being too intense. Another angle of that trellis or arbor. We planted a lot of jasmine vines here, so that ended up crawling all over this thing. And as the summer breezes would come into the house when that jasmine bloomed, it just smelled like perfume in the little house. So also the front door was white glass, just like that other panel. A really nice material because it lets light in and also keeps the privacy. So it's translucent, not transparent. Shot of the hardy board siding and how those beams worked. And here's a finished shot. I'll be a little bit messy with a bunch of junk here, but looking in, you can see there's the white glass window. You could actually write on this white glass with colored wax pencil. So the kids used to like to come and draw things on there. But again, you can see the entry as the ceiling is open above. Naturally, you're drawn to this side, and as you turn the corner, you can see the open ceiling. Even though it was only a couple feet with the skylights and the high windows there was a lot of drama to this little space. One of the things that we did in the bathroom was I had this idea of we retiled it, and I had this idea of tile coming from unbroken to shattered, kind of crazy stuff. You can see this is in process, and then here it is all grouted out. You can see these little plates are used as soap dishes. Simply took china, pottery. There's a little bowl made it a soap dish here at the mirror. It's kind of artsy and kind of fun. There's a shot, an extra piece of the countertop turned into a carpenter's table with a couple extra beams looking back towards the kitchen. And again, entry there, you can see that cabinet that we built into that extra thick wall, which became a nice pantry. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the kitchen. You know, since there's so much detail that goes into kitchens, I think it's worth taking a special look at the kitchen. This is from the kitchen looking towards the back, and you can see this surfboard table. I use this very interesting material for countertops, which is the same thing that you may remember from biology or laboratory class in high school. Those kind of very soft gray, virtually indestructible type of material that would cover the countertops where you could do experiments. And this was sort of a mauve colored version of the same stuff on top of a steel frame. I'll show you more about that in a second. So this was an initial plan. You should always isolate a kitchen, make maybe a half-inch drawing. Typical architectural drawings are done in 1/4 inch. So if you enlarge it To double the size, you make it 1/2 inch, which is what this is. Gives you, you can look at the detail better. This mark here shows elevations. So elevation 1 would be in this direction, elevation 4 would be in this direction, elevation 2, and so on. But what you want to do is start looking at all your specific elevations and counter and cabinet layout. So this elevation 4 is, again, looking in this direction towards the sink. So you can see that's where the sink is being set up. And there's the window. We ended up having a couple of closed or regular upper cabinets here and an open shelf cabinet for books and so forth on this side, which was kind of nice because it opened towards the living area. You can see the difference between your standard 36-inch high kitchen countertop, and that's a standard that you should pay attention to 42-inch bar top right here. And if you have a 42-inch top, you will need a typical bar stool, which is different than a counter stool, which is different than a dining chair. A typical dining table is about 29 or 30 inches. So it's, most people think that that measurement is much lower than what a dining room table actually is. But if you measure it, go measure your dining room table, I bet you it comes out at about 29 to 30 inches. So there are 3 different types of chairs, 3 different types of countertops that are typical. Here you can see that measurement. This elevation number 2 here is looking in this direction from this side of the countertop versus inside the kitchen. So here we are looking at at first I had planned to have a bar extend this whole length until I came up with the concept for the surfboard table, which you can see right here. So I guess this one had the surfboard table in this direction, and I ended up tilting it, which allowed you to put more seats around it and didn't infringe too much on the living room side. You could even put a seat right here. One of the things I ended up changing here was this dimension from 40 inches to 48 inches, which is 4 feet obviously. 3 feet is a minimum dimension for hallways, and oftentimes when I have a plan, I create on CAD a box 3 feet by 3 feet, and I literally move this box around in and out of areas to sort of see how comfortable it is for traffic. And when you have a kitchen, a 3-foot corridor would be very narrow. 4 feet really worked out quite nice. In other words, you almost can't open this dishwasher and stand out of the way. So giving yourself a little extra room beyond the minimum requirements is oftentimes important, and it's important to know where to do those things. But as you design, take a little piece of paper on your plans that's a 4-foot by 4-foot shape and move it around and see where things get caught up. You can see here also that it's important to start plugging in your appliances. So you need to go out and specify exactly what kind of appliances you've got or you want to get, because they come in all different shapes and sizes. They have different requirements for where you plug in things like the water for the electric ice or the power. Sometimes you have to put a plug down here. Sometimes you have to put a plug down here. This ended up being a microwave on top of the vent hood, so that had to fit in with the cabinets. Of course, there was a dishwasher and a range. The other thing you want to pay attention to is spaces between things. Like you can't butt a dishwasher right up to a stove, or the doors really won't work very well. So you need a little spacer right here. Same thing with a refrigerator up against this wall. It needs a little space to, if you think of the door handle that's on the edge of that door, you can't jam a refrigerator up against the wall and have it work very well. So think about the little spaces in between. Typically corners have little spaces too. Spacers. And a good cabinet guy will know how to do all this sort of stuff. Okay, so this is what the final kitchen ended up looking like. This was actually a single cabinet here with that open cabinet. I actually had a post on the corner, so it was open on this side, open on this side. As I said, you can see the surfboard table. You can see the little space between the range and the dishwasher. Here's the microwave appliance on top. These cabinets down here actually turned out to be a full-size 2-foot cabinet on this side and a 1-foot cabinet on this side. So this countertop is 3 feet, which is longer than the typical 2-foot countertop. And that allowed us to have cabinets over here that worked, providing some extra storage. And you can see the steel post that goes, actually I put blocking in underneath in the framing underneath the house so I could bolt this all down. But there was only one post out here and then another post that actually came down through the cabinet. Here's a better shot. So at the time I said I was into steel, so I made this, actually it was sort of a ridge with ribs out of steel like so. And then there was the posts below. And then this surfboard type shape fit right over the top of it. I thought it was pretty cool. It was kind of fun. So I like this little shot here. It shows a lot of different elements. There was actually the skylight up here. You can see the beams in the open ceiling. You can see this interesting cabinet that's part closed, part open. The surfboard table, the nice open kitchen that's open to the living area, but also sort of shielded by this little table too, as a separate dining area in between, and again, all in a very small space. So I hope you like this bungalow remodel. This is bungalow number 1. We'll do a couple more and see how you guys like them. So please join us. Continue watching our videos. If you are an apprentice member, you know you get lots of these videos for free. And if you want to take a step up and join us as a journey person, $10 a month, we have a whole bunch more videos. And again, please let me know at theultimatehouse100@gmail.com if there are any subjects that you're interested in hearing more about. We'll do videos on those. So here's to a good beginning in your project. Hope to see you more in the future. Otis Bradley signing off.